If you have tight hip flexor muscles, especially your psoas, and you're tired of doing the same old traditional stretching and rolling exercises that only give temporary relief, try this. The reason why most common fixes for the psoas and tight hip flexors don't get long-term results or even meaningful results in the short term is because they're not addressing the root cause of why that psoas muscle is tight in the first place. They're only addressing the fact that the psoas muscle is tight. First, let's understand what the psoas does in order to understand how it gets tight. So the psoas attaches at our low back vertebrae, represented by this band right here, and it runs down to the inner portion of our thigh bone right here. So typically when this muscle contracts, it can do two things primarily. It can pull the hip into what we call flexion, and it can bend the hip like this. The other way this muscle can create hip flexion is these fibers up here contract, and they pull the low back forward into what we call extension. This is going to move the hips into flexion, but it's in a different way. And you can see that this pelvis is moving closer to the femur or the leg bone in a similar way. It's just being initiated through the low back rather than this action right here. Both are ways we can move into hip flexion. So people that have tight psoas muscles oftentimes have a pelvis and hips that are stuck in a position of hip flexion, which is being represented by that big back arch right there. So this is shortening the muscle and keeping it in a shortened position. Now, the other thing that this is doing is this is flaring up our rib cage like this. And when the rib cage is flared up like this is the second part of the equation. It's keeping the diaphragm in a compromised position. If I stay flared up like this is a position of inhalation. So what I struggle to do overall, both out of my hips and my rib cage, is get in a position of a stack where, think about an exhalation. Do you see how the pelvis comes underneath myself? And also these ribs are stacked on top of the pelvis better. This is the position we want to get in. And one really cool thing about this, guys, is that your psoas does have a direct attachment to your diaphragm via a fascial line. Now, this fascial line means that tightness in one area can affect different muscles down or up the chain of this fascial line. So by getting the diaphragm in a better position, it can take stress off of the psoas. So the goals are to bring the hips into more of an extended position underneath us, but also to bring the rib cage down. So muscles that will help do this are the hamstring muscles that attach on the back of the pelvis, which can help pull the pelvis underneath us. But also we want to facilitate a nice long exhale because that's going to bring the rib cage down. And the muscles that are really helpful for that are our oblique muscles, specifically our internal obliques that attach here and here, because when those contract, they can pull the pelvis underneath us and stack the rib cage on top of it. So these are the two goal muscular groups we're going to focus and target in this exercise. Guys, I have a huge announcement. I love giving people the tools to be able to understand and fix their own bodies, to have empowerment, to really understand what's at the root cause of their issues. And so I'm releasing a brand new product and a brand new course, unlike anything that's on the market right now. And it's called the Own Your Body course. It's going to be a live, or you can even do it self-paced course that starts in September, and it's going to give you the tools to understand and take ownership of your own body's pain, poor posture, movement limitations, all of those things underneath the same umbrella. And I really want to make this accessible for literally anyone to be able to take it. Whether it's you, your grandma, or your dog, they should be able to watch this course and do it and understand exactly what's wrong with their body and have the tools for understanding how they can assess what's wrong and what exercises are best for their own individual limitations. So if you want to learn more, check out the link down below in the description. Early bird ends at the end of this week, and it's a super affordable price because, again, I want to reach a ton of people with this course, and I want to help a lot of people. For this, what you're gonna do is lay on your back with your feet up on something about this high, like a bench or a chair. And you want around a 60-degree bend at your hips right here, somewhere around there. Now you're gonna take a foam roller or maybe a pillow folded in half, and you're gonna put it deep in your groin, basically as close to your junk as you can get it. And then you're gonna lay, back should be totally flat, chin should be pointing up at the ceiling. Now, what you're going to do is keeping your feet pointing at the ceiling, you're going to drag down into that object gently. You're just keeping this as a placeholder. You're not squeezing it, but dragging down should engage your hamstring muscles just a little bit. So you're going to feel like your low back is flat, but your tailbone is slightly off of the ground. It's like you're in a little posterior pelvic tilt. You should not feel any glutes engaging really. It should just be hamstrings. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to take your palms up and reach them very gently low at less than about a 60-degree angle relative to your trunk. So right about here. Now, you should feel a little bit of your shoulder blades moving away from your spine. We call that protraction, okay? Now, what you're going to do is maintain all of this. A little bit of hamstring engagement, a little bit of a low reach. And as you exhale through your mouth, you want to sigh the air out. For about that long. At the end of that exhale, you should feel your side ab, not your six-pack muscles as much, but your side ab muscles engage. You're going to pause and you're going to hold the tension in your side ab muscles. You're going to very gently inhale through your nose, not engaging your neck. So when you inhale, you're going to feel your chest open up a little bit and your back open up a little bit. So it looks like this. And then you would exhale again. The two biggest mistakes here is that people reach too hard and their chin lifts off of the ground and their sternum depresses. Don't do that. It's a very gentle 2-3 out of 10 reach. The other thing is that when people exhale, they don't exhale long enough. So remember, we got to get the rib cage down. So if you exhale like this, it's not going to be good enough. You got to have a nice, soft, open mouth exhale. And then when you inhale, don't engage your neck. Now, what if you only had psoas tightness on one side? Well, generally what that represents, assuming that muscle is tight because it's in a shortened position, what's going on is that this muscle contracting is actually going to pull the spine to the opposite side. So notice how if these fibers contract and these fibers come closer together, it's going to turn the spine to the right if it's a tight left psoas. That's also likely going to pull the pelvis. If I get rid of this band really quick, that's going to pull the pelvis more forward on that left side. So we now have an issue where we have a rightward facing spine and we need to pull the pelvis back on the left and better turn the spine to the left to take stress off of that tight left psoas. So for this, instead of being in 60 degrees of hip bend, you want to be more 90-degree bend at both your knees and your hips. Foam roller is still going down in between your thighs, sort of like the mid portion of your thighs here. And now what you're going to do is you're going to keep that chin pointing at the ceiling, drag very gently down, low back stays flat, tailbone lifts off. You should feel just hamstrings, not your glutes really working here. Now, once you're here, you want to initiate a shift towards the side of the tighter psoas. It should be very gentle, just like a 2 out of 10. You don't want to feel any pinching in your hips. If you do, you can back away a little bit, but here should be fine for most people. You can think about this shift in a couple different ways. You can think about this via initiating the shift via pushing the opposite side knee up or pulling that knee down. Your feet shouldn't really move. It should be a hip movement. And it's very subtle and gentle. As you do that, you're going to feel a tiny bit of groin engage on the side you're shifting to without losing the hamstring on that side. Now, just sit here and breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. You're going to feel more left low back heavy on the floor, and that's good. At the end of that exhale, feel those side abs engage. On that side, you're shifting towards more. Pause, very gentle inhalation. If you want to get more side abs, you could take this arm and reach it straight up towards the ceiling very gently and do that same breathing. Just make sure that it's just hamstring, inner thigh, no hip flexor, and your side abs on that side. That's the only muscle groups you should feel working in this exercise. I recommend doing these exercises twice daily for maximum results, both in the morning and at night. 2 sets of about 5 to 8 slow breath cycles. If you guys like this, please like the video and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me and the channel. And thank you for watching.